Boy, oh boy, this one might be a little too late, but anyways, we don't operate on the pulse of the moment too much. Some things are important enough to be spoken about in and outside of the immediate moment that they happen to occur in. I want to talk about the scandal of breaking and the Olympics. Now, some people might be confused. What do you mean by breaking? Do you mean like, because I could have said break dancing, but that would have been the wrong term. So maybe we should start there. There's no such thing as break dancing. The actual practitioners do not refer to it as break dancing because it's a bit redundant, but also it's a reflection of the fact that a lot of people do not understand hip-hop culture. If you're new to the platform, you'll know that, or you won't know, that what we do here is we divulge on elements of hip-hop that have developed historically. But hip-hop as a term and rap as a term have been co-opted by the larger capitalistic culture to sell brands. So sometimes when you see a b-boy or b-girl on a commercial for Red Bull or whatever brand, it's completely detached from the hip-hop culture. It's just a selling point. And yes, most of the time, probably often than not all of the time, when you see a rapper, it is always detached from the hip-hop culture. Rap has become so detached from hip-hop that it is its own unique phenomenon that has spawned numerous sub-genres like trap, like chill hop, so many different waves of musical styles that are created to set a overture or musical backdrop for rappers. That has nothing to do with hip-hop. What is hip-hop? Hip-hop is the breaks. The breaks. These are the breaks. What are breaks? The breaks on a technical level are the moments in between the historical landscape of funk, jazz, bebop, dance music that were able to create the drum patterning that made it possible for us to have the groove that was hip-hop. This groove that is hip-hop is based on the block party. The block party was the context in which hip-hoppers came together to have a vibe, in the place to be. Now, this language, this phenomenon was then taken, because of its popularity, by people who turned it into something worth selling for capitalism. One thing you have to understand before I go into this whole discussion is that hip-hop is not based on the rapper. The DJ was the central point of the hip-hop movement, because it is the DJ that broke the beats. It is the DJ that allowed for these rhythms to be able to have a breaker in the form of a b-boy and a b-girl. It is the DJ that was able to break these breaks, that was able to create this place to cultivate a master of the ceremony, the MC, the rapper, who at the very most in the original hip-hop context was that, an MC, somebody who helped create a interval between the moments of dance. See, what we have to understand about hip-hop in its true inception, it's for the people, not for the individual. What rap has become is an individualistic capitalist aspiration for young black men and some women to reach the heights of fame and money because of their ability with rap skill and commercial viability. It has nothing to do with hip-hop, Londo, guys. Hip-hop is about the block party. If there is no block party, where there is no DJ, where there are no breaks, where there are no break boys and break girls, then it's probably not a hip-hop party. But hip-hop as a term has become friendly with the money. But that's a different conversation. But the reason I had to highlight that is because breaking, as it is known to the people who do it, practice it, live it, is more than just some kind of dance art form. It is a way to take what is done on a sonic level with the breaks and interpret it on a physical level. What the breaks are drums that allow for a rhythmic interpretation of expression. So the break boy and the break girl, B-boy, B-girl, are born in an open space where all you have are the drums. And these drums drive you to allow for every limb, every muscle of your body to become an expression of what these drums are about. And in that moment, what hip-hop was about was a complete aspiration to break free from capitalist constructs, to just find sustainability. So, flashback to today, it's still the same thing. Breaking, not break dancing. Because to say break dancing, it isn't even really dance. Because what you're doing is you are expressing your body in ways that are not necessarily driven by the performative instinct. They're driven by something deeper. They're driven by the capacity to free oneself spiritually. So, are we dancing? Are we not dancing? To dance is to be in a place where you are moving your body for the context of inciting a pleasurable feeling that leads to an inevitable trance state. This is what dancing is. But breaking is a bit more technical. And therefore, this is why it could qualify as a sport. Because hip-hop has a level of competitiveness embedded in it. A friendly competitiveness. One would even argue that it might not even be really a competitive spirit, but it might just be a mutual challenging of abilities. Because maybe competition means one has to be number one. But in breaking, it was always about each one teach one. Maybe that thing should be written on the screen when I say this. Each one teach one. That's the spirit of hip-hop. When a rapper spits, they're not trying to outdo the other rapper. They're trying to feed from the energy of the other rapper and vice versa. When a DJ scratches and plays breaks, they're not trying to outdo the other DJ. They're trying to feed from the spirit of the other DJ. So it is this fundamental difference in the outlook that also quantifies the fact that, breaking could fit in as a sport in the Olympics by virtue of the fact that the Olympics want a pop culture savvy currency. Breakers want to be acknowledged globally, so it makes for a perfect fit. And it did, and it does. A lot of breakers had the opportunity to flex their skills, to feed from each other, to be with each other in a space that just allowed for breaking to be acknowledged on a global level. Let alone the misnomer of break dancing, let alone the fact that the criterion were kind of hazy. But what this was an opportunity for breaking to gain legitimacy as an art form / sport. Sport in the context that it can be used as a way where two or more contrasting practitioners get to feed from each other, get to compete, with each other for some title. Most real breakers would laugh at the concept, but they'd be with it just for the fun of flexing their skill. Shout out to B-Boy Rhythm, and shout out to all the breakers who have been here and showed us, taught us the fundamentals of what breaking is today. Shout out to Midian, and shout out to everybody. So, back to the story. Breaking in the Olympics does its thing, but unfortunately, instead of the art form, the sport getting an opportunity for people to see what it is about, we have the spotlight on a particular Rachael Gunn, an Australian academic / dancer, somebody who understands dancing from different levels, but is now introducing and immersing herself into the world of breaking. Let's break it down. Rachael Gunn. Look, guys, if you haven't already seen the video from legendary breaker Crazy Legs, who is an architect of hip-hop, who is one of the last living pioneers of the culture proper. Not one of these figures who try to stretch hip-hop out into some kind of pop culture medium that is primarily involved with rap. No. One of the people who understand the fundamentals that hip-hop is about the breaks. Crazy Legs brings about super major points. One, to bring breaking into the context of sports means to introduce it into the dynamics of sports.
First, let me say, anyone on that stage is the decision and responsibility of the governing body or committee from each country.
So here's an interesting question. You have had World Cups where teams that play at different levels of the game play together. You have had a global festivity of tournaments, be it the Olympics or the UEFA Champions League or whatever kind of sport you're into, or the NBA championships. There are times when one team is head and shoulders above the other, because in that region, this particular sport is done at a level that is at a higher performance. Nobody, and I mean nobody, spoke of Reagan at this level. People were quick to take her gestorish moves as an expression of the fact that she didn't know how to break. Not that she was breaking at a level that was not on par with other breakers. And this is the problem. Maybe breaking as an individual sport is shining so much spotlight on one person that it feels as if they are delineating the sport in as a whole to a downward level. But the truth is that there are teams that play soccer at a terrible level but still get to compete with the best. I'm not gonna name them, maybe you can flash them in the edits. There are teams which play cricket, rugby, hockey, you name it, on levels that are not on par with the teams whose culture has cultivated this kind of sport. So ask yourself, has Australia cultivated the kind of breaking that can compete with Japan, with Korea, with the United States, with all of these other cultures? The answer is no. But have they organized themselves well enough? Yes. And that's what sports management is about. If a country is able to have an organization that has, over the years, collected, managed, overseen a particular kind of sport effectively, graded it, found it ways to go through the channels, found ways to rank people, then that country qualifies to step into a global platform. Now this is the particular kind of situation we're dealing with here. Not Ray Gunn being a bad breaker, but Ray Gunn being a breaker of export that is lower to other breakers, which is a beautiful opportunity to see the standard of breaking. Rachael Gunn is a legitimate breaker, if you want to know what my take is. To go further, her piece was dedicated to marking the different elements within Olympic breaking that were contradictory. The fact that we still don't have a proper margin to define whether or not this is an art, a sport. Can sport be an art? Can art be a sport? These are questions that do not have any clear answers, and Rachael Gunn's performance was an expression of that. How do you cross between sport and art? It has been famously said that art is not a sport because you cannot compete with art, and art is an expression of the individual impulse, and yet we have top 10 charts for artists, and yet we have all kinds of grading systems to say who has the best song, who has the best painting. We have all kinds of systems that force artists to compete. Is art a sport? In capitalism, it sure has become one. And maybe that's why we have a lot of fucked up art more than actual good art. Because actual artists have to think about who they're competing against instead of just doing art. And maybe the problem is what Ray Gunn was trying to express. Maybe the ridiculousness, maybe the hilarious, clown-like, contradictory aspect of the whole routine was because she was expressing how bad art has become because it's too busy trying to be a sport. There you have it. That's the final take. I'm convinced that Rachael Gunn is a subliminal genius and a mediocre breaker, but a genius for going on stage, performing a routine. Because if you look at her performances before, maybe we'll play a couple of clips there and there. The moment that really brought hype to her was that single moment. Maybe she was trying to be bad for a reason. How about that? Because maybe for every album, for every painting, for every piece of art you are able to say is bad, it is because some artist was trying to compete in the concept of a marketplace. And this is something that's not new to the headspace. We talk about how art and capitalism create this abrasive conflict, where even the whole album review section that we do is based on trying to assess the individual journey of the artist in the context of that same competitive space. No, I'm forced to do that. Because if I'm going to look at the integrity of an album, I can't pretend like we're not consuming these albums in the context of something competitive. I cannot pretend like there aren't a million rap albums, house albums, piano albums trying to vie for your attention. And if I'm introducing this one, I have to describe how it fits in the context of everything that you want to choose to consume. Capitalism does that. It's created this highly competitive environment. So in closing, Rachael Gunn is not the enemy. In fact, she's probably a very important ally where breaking gains legitimacy into the academic world, where people who love it enough talk about it, study it, teach about it, and go perform it in order to bring light about it. Half of you motherfuckers, I can't even say motherfuckers proper because I'm so pissed, probably didn't really follow breakdancing if it wasn't for the so-called terrible break dancer. Hey, wow. So therefore, maybe Rachael Gunn should be your hero, because she helped you pay attention to breaking. She helped you understand what is a bad breaker, what is a good breaker. This is not the end of the episode. We will be having further discussions with breakers that we've engaged with, specifically Cheslin and Median, who represent important parts of South Africa's breaking atmosphere, because they are men and women. So there's a lot about this breaking shit where the genderedness also is a question, because it's a art form that involves the physical capacity of an individual to express themselves. Should it actually be gendered? These are conversations that incite us to keep the spirit of breaking alive. So this is merely part one of an ongoing conversation around breaking, the Olympics, and the state of breaking as it stands today. One thing you should know though is Rachael Gunn is probably very, very important for inciting the conversation, for being a pivotal step towards breaking, expanding into the larger conversation of pop culture. So shout out to Crazy Legs and all the OGs of real hip hop. When I say real hip hop, it has nothing to do with rap music. So all you rappers probably need to go do your homework. But what I want to say is this. This episode has been about practitioners who want to free art from the conditions of sport, and sportsmen and women who want to free sports from the conditions of art. I do not have some kind of clinical answer to conclude it all. I only have this open-ended statement that says that is the conversation. My name is VJ, the brother from the Ancient Mother. It's been another episode of The Headspace. Holla at us in the comment section. If you haven't already subscribed, you probably should. We talk about pop culture as it expresses itself in the African continent and the world at large. Breaking has become a center point in that conversation. I love it because it gives us an opportunity to finally understand what it's about. Peace and love.